All right, what's up, guys? Here for the week 4 recap for fantasy football, NFL. I'm here with Elliott and Christian. Austin couldn't make it today, not feeling well, but we will still keep you guys informed, give our takes on each game. So we're just gonna run through each of the games. Nobody care about the Cowboys. Um, so the first game we're gonna talk about, we're gonna kick it off with Elliott. Let's go ahead and discuss the Saints and Falcons.
Yeah, this is
26
a
24.
this is an interesting game because if you look at the score by itself, you would think this was like relatively pretty good offensive show. But it was actually more of a defensive game than the score would think. But I mean, my big takeaways from the game are so Drake won is a thumbs up. He's just good. 12 targets. Again, fantasy football is a targets game. He had 12
Yep.
targets. He caught six of them, but that's still showing something.
Yep.
Bijan didn't have the best game, but the touches were there. I think if there's anything that I could take away from Bijan is, unless you haven't already, you may want to try to get to Tyler Algier on your bench because he is still getting touches. He is not. Bijan's ascendance has not left his descendants. I think those are my two big takeaways. And Olave, I know he may not be like the target monster, but he will get his. He's still consistent. 8 for 87. That's not a bad stat line. So I think those are the big takeaways in the Saints defense. If you are the type to stream a defense, if you have the Saints defense, I think they are the type of defense that you can just ride with. I don't think you need to stream it. I think unless they're playing like the Ravens, I think that's a defense you can play week in, week out.
Yeah. For me, it is going to be Kyle Pitts, the great Kyle Pitts out of the University of Florida. Um, Kyle Pitts came into the game. Um, I guess I'm just gonna say he came into this league for the NFL. Everybody was hyping him up, saying he's the next big thing, yada yada
Mhm.
yada. And he gave you a whopping 0 points. And he had 3 targets. I'm done with Kyle Pitts. I was actually done with Kyle Pitts like 2 years ago. People still had hope. They got Michael Penix. They signed Kirk Cousins, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is his breakout. This is his breakout." Nope, still trash. Done with him. I think Bijan may have better games, but he's not the top 3 pick that you drafted him to be. To me, Alvin Kamara is still steady. Olave had double-digit targets. Shaheed had double-digit targets. We know how the Saints are gonna go, but yeah, Kyle Pitts, he is beyond droppable. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, Warren, and you kind of talked about my take here. My take was going to be on Alvin Kamara. Kamara had another great game. And so, we talked last week about maybe having two running backs. You've got Kamara, his backup is Jamal Williams. But I mean, right now, Jamal Williams does not have any place on the Saints offense. I'm just going to read the stats of Kamara today. He had 19 carries, 77 yards. He had 7 of 9 targets. So had 7 receptions, 42 yards. And so
Yeah.
just think about that. The offense is still going through Kamara. From a fantasy perspective, he is exactly who you want. And so if you think about taking away Bijan Robinson, he was probably your maybe pick 3, we'll say pick 7. Alvin Kamara is going to be that person right now. So right now, at least for the Saints offense, he's who you want to hold. Still very pleased with the Falcons and the Saints. I did not expect both of them to be in this position at week 4 in the season. Looking at the Saints offense last year, you probably really didn't want to have anybody on that offense last year. Derek Carr was not that great, but
Uh,
even looking at Derek Carr stats today, I think he was around 10 points. So think about that from a fantasy perspective. It's not a ton of passing, it's not a ton of running. So I think he's going to be a continual serviceable quarterback. I know guys in one of my leagues actually picked him up as he's going to be a top 12 quarterback. He was going to contribute every single week. I think the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, you saw him at his peak. And I feel like at that point, he boomed. He had 22, 24 points one week.
yeah.
I feel like now Derek Carr, he's going to be there at that average 12 to, we'll say, 15 points per week. So that was the biggest takeaway I had. I mean, the Falcons did great. Saints did great, but just those two key players is what I took away from it.
All right. All right. Next game I have on the list. the Rams visiting Chicago at the Bears. Elliott, what to make?
This is one of the maybe like just worst games in terms of quality today. I think Caleb Williams is definitely coming into his own. He's not there yet from a fantasy impact standpoint, but DeAndre Swift definitely outperformed what I thought he was going to be this year. I don't have his stat line in front of me, but I think he was 19 carries and maybe a few catches
Yeah.
to go with that. None of the receivers, Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, none of them did much. I think to me the big takeaway is almost really in the negative on this one. I think the Rams offense, they need Cup and Nakua back. I think without the two of them, as much as I love McVay, as much as I think he's maybe the best mind in the league, without the guys, without the Joes, doesn't matter. You need the Jimmys and the Joes more than the X's and the O's. So I do think if you're a Nakua owner or a Cup owner, I think today proved like if you get them on your IR slots, they're warranted because when they come back, they're definitely going to be getting the ball a lot. Oh, Kyron
So,
Williams, though. We got to give him
uh,
more.
Michael just put in the chat, what running back can I get for Garrett Wilson? What do you guys think?
Uh, I,
So I looked at that earlier because I actually looked at one of the guys in my league actually asked about trading for Garrett Wilson, or like me trying to trade for him. I think Garrett Wilson right now is like wide receiver 34, which is
Feels
not,
like 54.
yeah, and it's not the value that you would expect. So I mean, if you think about running back comparisons, and I'll be honest, maybe Chase Brown,
I was
maybe
thinking
more.
maybe Travis
I was
Etienne.
I was saying like Najee
Okay,
Harris.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean Najee Harris is terrible. Um, I get it, his value's down, but I would think Travis Etienne,
Or
he's been
Tank Bigsby,
bad.
same team.
Tank took a lot of
Yeah,
his carries today. He had nine for
Yeah,
what, almost
he
70
did.
yards.
yeah.
Um, Another running back that I could possibly think of, maybe Kenneth Walker, depending on what
Yeah,
he does tomorrow.
tomorrow night. Yeah,
Coming off injury, probably somebody, definitely an RB2. You're not getting an RB1 for Garrett
yeah.
Wilson at this point, unless someone's desperate.
I mean,
I'd say as
I
somebody
think
that actually, go ahead, Elliot.
I think best case scenario on that trade. I think that your best case scenario is somebody like James Conner. That's like the high end, but that's asking for a lot if you can make that happen.
I was
Yeah,
going to
But
say
try.
Pollard, maybe Pollard at this point.
yeah.
And again, you see the potential at Garrett Wilson. So obviously you're asking this question because you're believing that he is going to have potential later on, and so you want something that's of equal or maybe slightly lesser value that you can use now. And so thinking about the impact now for your roster, and I'm assuming you don't really have a strong RB1. I feel like Pollard. I mean, Warren, you said James Conner, who I think is great.
Yeah,
Those backs are going to be there, but I still wonder about the longevity of that roster spot.
I got you. Somebody else put in the chat, they're down 15 and they've got Pollard and DK and he has Ridley. I would think you would win just because DK of it's PPR. I have no faith in Calvin Ridley. Not really on him just because of Will Levis. So um, I think you have a chance with DK. So
The only the
um,
only thing I worry about with DK, you've got three mouths to feed in Seattle.
yeah, that's true.
So
But he's played great this year. So
Yeah,
um,
DK should be good because I think the Lions' run defense. I think right now I don't have them. I think they're like the best in the league, or they're like top three against like stopping the run. So that
yeah.
should help DK.
Okay. Going back to the game for Chicago, Elliot, you hit on it. DeAndre Swift, he had a great game. I don't know how sustainable that is. But I wanted to talk about Kyron Williams. Without Puka, without Cooper Cup, I mean, he is still rolling. Definitely a top five pick, definitely a top five running back at this point, the way he's playing. And barring injury, like I don't really see how he could slow down. I thought Blake Corum would get more work, but he hasn't. So my take is, hey man, congrats to Kyron Williams. So somebody just put in the chat, Christian. My other question would be, I have Chase, DK as my safe wide receivers, but I have Addison and Keenan Allen. And somebody said, are we starting Dak Prescott week 5 against the Steelers?
I'll let Elliott take that one. Our resident cowboy.
Ooh, I love it. I think honestly, I'm gonna say yeah, because if I'll give you just like it's kind of like a level-headed take on it. This offense they have to throw the ball a lot because they're not running it well. Steelers are
Yeah,
going to come for the run, and also for what it's worth, the Cowboys do have 2 extra days to prepare for it,
yeah,
so they have extra time to look at film on the defense and think about it. So I think the Cowboys are going to be more motivated to kind of prove the point about the $6 million contract. So for me,
yeah.
unless your waiver wire has like Jordan Love still out there from what he did, or like even maybe Baker Mayfield on the bench, unless you can get somebody that's like kind of a legit starter, I would say fine, yeah, go with that.
I saw. So here's something I saw from the Steelers today. Justin Fields had I think like 325 yards of offense
Hmm.
just himself. So I
Yep.
know that's running and passing, but if you think about that just from a team perspective, Cowboys have got to keep up somehow. If Justin Fields is able to have success, whether it is running, whether it is passing, and he's continued to build that rapport with his receivers. Mike Tomlin is continually gaining trust and even named him a starter once Russell Wilson has returned.
Yeah.
I think Cowboys have to pass. They don't really have the running game that right now. Their offensive line is, I mean, it's okay. I say it's middle of the road.
Yeah.
Um, at this point, they're going to have to pass. Hopefully, it's going to be to D. I mean, to CD. We've seen the emergence of maybe some of the wide receiver twos, but it still goes through Dak and CD. So I would
Yeah.
still start. I would still start Dak, but maybe 15 points or so.
I would start Dak. I unless he's playing San Francisco, I would start Dak. They seem to have his number. I used to shy away from Dak, but I mean they like Elliot said, they always have to throw, especially this year. And CD's a stud. Somehow Brandon Cooks always get catches. Jalen Tolbert's playing better. I wouldn't shy away from Pittsburgh, you know, with Dak. So it is what it is. He said I'm convinced to start Prescott. All right. Another guy said I have Roma Dunze, Allen, which I'm assuming is Keenan Allen, and Jordan Addison. If I combined all three, what wide receiver could I get, or do I just need to keep them? Um, all three, I don't know. I don't know who would
Well,
take
Warren,
those
I'm going to
three.
ask you: would you hold any of those receivers?
I would hold Jordan Addison.
Okay.
I wouldn't. The Bears wide receivers, I would hold Addison out of the three.
Is it? I would
Jordan.
also ask, is it and maybe the person, I don't, is it a dynasty league? That's one thing I ask too. Because if it's a dynasty league, I would keep Odunze. If it's a redraft league, I would not.
Yeah, he said he just don't like the Bears wide receivers. I agree. I would definitely probably hang on to Addison just because the Vikings offense looks great. He's going to be the number two.
Mhm.
I think even when Hawkinson comes back, but the other ones, the Bears wide receivers, I just don't know. I picked up Rome Odunze in one league because I have Puka who was out, Tank Dell was out, Devontae Adams was out, and Cooper Kupp was out. So, and Rome gave me 2 points more than Isaiah Likely last week. So, that's the best I could do, man.
Rome's gonna be
Yeah,
Rome's gonna
and
be a streamer. He's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be a
mean,
streamer. He's gonna
I
be
streamed
just
him
up
this
and
week
down.
and he was terrible. So,
and so I have DJ Moore on my fantasy team, and I mean it's the same as Roma Denze. I mean he may have a really great week, he may be getting targets, but
yeah.
that offense is just not putting anything together. Last week I think Rome had his first touchdown. So I
Yep.
mean he is getting. I think it was like a modest like 4 for like 35 yards, but he is getting touched. He is getting touches. He is getting looks. Um,
He had three
Elliott,
targets.
you mean he's 3 targets? Okay. So I
Yeah.
mean, I think at this point, if you want to hold him, because I feel like you probably draft him like maybe 10th or 11th round.
Yeah.
Maybe hold him, see if anything comes out. Maybe like middle of the season, especially as we're approaching bye weeks, you're probably going to have somebody to play.
Yeah.
But if there's anybody else on the waiver wire, maybe you want to find them.
Ali just said, would you rather have Travis Etienne or Rashad White rest of season?
Ooh, I feel like they're almost kind of the same person right now, and they both have back and running backs that are kind of surging. Although Bucky Irvin seems to be surging more than Tank surging,
Yeah.
but they're almost kind of the same person. It seems like it's basically just swap uniforms, and they're the same guy. But I mean, if I had to pick one, it seems like the Bucks offense is just better right now. So if you give like the tiebreaker to the offense, it's the better offense.
I was going to say Rashad White
Mm,
only because
Really?
he's better out of the backfield.
yeah.
So I mean, I'm not saying running. I'm also saying like catching.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
would trust the Buccaneers offense a lot better than the Jags right now. The Jags are what I think they lost today. They're what 0-4,
Mhm. All for it, yeah. So
and
at this
so
point in the year,
He
yeah,
said Urban about to take White spot. I was gonna say ETN. I think this may have been a wake up call for ETN. I think he's clearly capable of being a bell cow back. The first couple of games, Jacksonville has been terrible, but I don't think ETN has been all that bad. My concern with Rashad White is Bucky Irving. Um, he's better in between the tackles, but he can also catch. So, I mean, at what point, if Bucky Irvin takes over the backfield, at what point do they bring in Rashad White? Like, is it clear, like 2 minute drill? Is it to spell Bucky Irvin? Um, so I mean, I would go with ETN. I'm not sure Bigsby is all that dynamic, but ETN is the better running back. So I don't know. I would say ETN, but that's contrary to what you guys think. So
I feel like if they had to run the ball, it would be ETN. But here
yeah.
lately, they have not have
Yeah.
not been in the situation to run. It's been all pass.
no, yeah.
So I want to get you guys' take on the Broncos and Jets. Um,
10 to
Elliot, I'm gonna
9,
start with you.
classic.
Just because you already know what I'm gonna say and you already know how I'm gonna feel, just because I had Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall. But your take on the Broncos and Jets. Eli, I'll get to your question in a second, buddy.
To me, a Christian.
No, you can go.
Elliott.
Okay. Um, I mean, I think the take is this Jets. I almost view the Jets offense like I view some fantasy defenses. Like it's just depending on the opponent. Like whoever the opponent is, cool. If the opponent's too tough, no. Like this offense does not have that like matchup irrelevant player. Like they don't have it. And I think Brees Hall, I don't know if it's just the game script or if he's got some kind of injury that we don't know about, but I mean, he's kind of two back-to-back weeks of just nothing impressive. So I mean, from a fantasy standpoint, I'd try to maybe either sell him high or just maybe try to like get Braylon Allen on your backup as a backup if you can, if he's still out there, because that's just bad. And personally, I know you disagree. I would not quit on Garrett Wilson yet, only because to me, Garrett Wilson has, and you may have to wait on this. To me, he has like kind of a week 8, like halfway through the season pop waiting to happen, where like you look and you go, man, he was bad, and then by week 10, you're like, okay, I see him coming. That I think that's gonna happen. I could be wrong, so I wouldn't quit on Garrett Wilson yet.
Christian, you want to go before I lay in?
Yeah, yeah, I can. And Elliott, I know you talked about the Jets. I'll try to take the opposite side of a bright spot from the Broncos. Broncos did win, so
Mhm.
give Bo Nix his props there.
He's having
Um,
fun.
yeah, he's having fun. He's young, he's having fun. Dark horse MVP candidate. Uh, the bright spot I have is Cortland Sutton. So I have Sutton on one of my fantasy teams, and there are weeks where I go back and forth on should he be a flex player. He gets the targets. He doesn't always have the catches. And I
Yeah.
think this week, I think he had like 9 targets for three receptions. He did have a touchdown, but I go back and forth, and so I will say, like I said, he is the bright spot. I think for the Broncos offense. I wish they would continue to feed him over some of the other options that they have. But Bo is still building that rapport with Cortland Sutton, Sean Payton's offense. Hopefully, they can build him into like a Michael Thomas that they had previously, in that offense in the Saints. It's still early, but Elliott, you said something earlier about Garrett Wilson. I would say just hold on to some of your Broncos receivers. If they're going to get there, they cannot run the ball, so they're going to have to keep passing, especially once they get into division. Once they start playing the Chiefs, once they start playing, the Chargers, they're going to have to do something on offense. So for me, that was a bright spot of the game. Warren, I know you have your own take on the Jets, so I'll hand it off to you. But
All right. All right. Real quick. A put in the chat, I'm down by 7.3 with Metcalf left, and I'm playing against A-Chain. What are the odds of winning? Um, I would say 40, 35, 40%. I think DK will have a decent game, but I mean, A-Chan gets a lot of catches, and I don't know how Huntley will be. Um, but I don't know. That's going to be tough. A-Chan's a good back, but you have a chance. DK's a big play guy. Um, okay. Broncos, Jets. Garrett Wilson. Elliott, I know you said to hold on to him. I'm really trying to hold on faith because Elliott was in the draft. I took him. I took him first round and 5 catches for 41 yards. He had a fumble, so he lost points on that. He had 8 targets, but so did Lazard, so did Tyler Conklin. Um, when Zach Wilson was the quarterback last year, he fed it to Garrett Wilson, even if he was covered, good or bad. I mean, it was like double-digit targets each week. I'm not saying that's what the Jets need to do. Obviously, that's not good for winning. But there was a point in the game where I think Wilson had 1 target and I'm watching, and I see they go to Garrett Wilson twice. He gets 2 catches, they get 2 first downs, and I'm thinking, why don't they scheme him? And I feel like they should give him treatment where he gets moved around, almost like a CeeDee Lamb. Give him jet sweeps, give him end arounds, give him screens, like move him around. He's your best wide receiver. And the offense was stagnant and just, I don't know. I feel like they should be a little bit more creative. um, Brees Hall, he had 10 carries. Can you guess how many yards he had?
15 yards.
Four. Four, Christian. 4 yards. 10 carries, 4 yards. That was bad. Brees Hall normally he'll get you 50, 60 yards. He'll get you about 5 catches, which, I would take, but he only had 2 catches today. Braylon Allen had one, but Brees Hall did have 5 targets. I'll take that for a running back. But that game was just awful. Bo Nix got a win on the road. Christian knows how I feel about Bo Nix. I think he's going to be good. He threw for, let me tell you this. Okay. So his average yards for a completion was 2.4. He had 60 yards passing and they won the game. That should tell you how awful the Jets offense was. Now, I do think that they missed a field goal. The Jets did. So, they could have won that game, but that was awful. Awful.
Yeah, Warren, I'm actually going to add something to you. So talking about the Jets, I think there was a fumble that Garrett Wilson had.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but it's when Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay. He's trusting a receiver, and then they do something to either make him go away,
Yep.
they drop a pass, they fumble the pass. If something happens, he does not go back to that receiver.
I've
And so
noticed.
when I thinking about that with Garrett Wilson today, it's like, was that what happened with Aaron Rodgers and Garrett? He
Yeah.
was passing the ball, he had some touches, he had the fumble, and then it's just like he avoided him the rest of the game. So
Yeah.
And that could
he
explain
doesn't
why
really have.
Lazard.
Oh
Sorry,
yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was saying that could explain why Lazard is all over the place because, like, I remember it was actually Christian. It was Hard Knocks. I think we were watching, and Randall Cobb made that same comment. Like, hey man, if you mess up, he ain't going back to you. So I think, yeah, that's why Lazard is
Yeah.
on the team.
So dude put in the chat, he's still talking about the Bears wide receivers. He said, for Allen and a Doomsday, what can I get for him? You just gonna have to throw some trades out there, man. Like, you never know if people
Honestly, you might get Lazard if he ain't on
make,
somebody's team.
yeah, you might could get an Alan Lazard, you might can get an Amari Cooper. He hasn't
Yeah,
been consistent. You could probably get
Shakir,
Khalil
maybe. I don't
Shakir.
know.
He's been better. I would think if he's available, Brian Thomas Jr. maybe from Jacksonville. Just depends on if the other person believes in the Bears. So, um, but just
Yeah,
moving along here with the games, I want to go to we kind of touched on the Steelers with Justin Fields. The Colts, Anthony Richardson got hurt. Flacco comes in. He's probably going to work his magic. How do you feel about the Colts passing game moving forward, or the offense as a whole moving forward?
I'm not really that optimistic about it. If I'm being honest. I mean, I think Michael Pittman will. I think so. Actually, no. I think Jonathan Taylor will get his. I think if you're a Taylor owner, do not fret. You'll be fine. You'll get his. Everybody else on that offense, even Pittman, without until we see more from Anthony Richardson, I would proceed with caution. And if you got Pittman, maybe try to sell him high right now. Just see what you can get. Maybe like the guy in the chat. I don't know. Obviously, he didn't mention Pittman, but maybe if you're somebody that has Pittman and you would prefer like a better running back, maybe you try to sell him high for a running back. But I think Taylor's good. Other than that, on the offense, everybody else is gonna be hit or miss. It's gonna be a very like up and down kind of offense. That's my thoughts on it. I think Richardson's gonna be fine. I think he'll be back next week. I don't think it's like any like a long term injury, at least from what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
So I think AR is gonna be the guy. And like I said, maybe 2 weeks ago on this podcast, I think you really gotta view AR like a rookie right now because he's just making a lot of rookie mistakes.
Oh yeah, he playing like it.
Yeah. So I would say JT, stick with him. Everybody else, just kind of play it by week.
Christian, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I can. So Elliott, I'm actually going to slightly differ on my take of the Colts. I actually thought, and we've seen before, I really thought that Flacco had a better control of the Colts offense.
Mm-hmm.
When he went in, you are a holder of Josh Downs. If you're a holder of Michael Pittman, I thought they had a lot more value with the Colts offense with him under center.
Yeah.
Obviously, Flacco can run. Flacco's not going to run. But Flacco is going to be distributing the ball. He's going to be making his reads. I have Jonathan Taylor. He got his touches. Elliott, you're right. He's going to get his. But I really thought that the offense looked a lot better with Flacco. Anthony Richardson, I think it was a re-aggravation of his hip or hip pointer injury. That's probably going to be a continual thing until he can really learn to protect himself and get down or just run out of bounds. You're probably going to continue to be seeing that injury or a nagging injury. So I don't know if Flacco has to keep coming in, maybe working in with the Colts offense. I could see them actually gaining in value. But I mean, if you're trying to think of maybe trading one of those two pieces, you can trade them now because they had a decent week in fantasy, right? So maybe trade them for maybe another wide receiver too. Maybe try to get maybe a great tight end. But I think as long as Anthony Richardson is there, you're not going to have, I guess, the boom potential that you think you should have with a lot of those top receivers. Even Alec Pierce, isn't that his name?
Yeah.
He's kind of gone away. Once they've had Josh Downs and he started coming in, that he hasn't really had that same value that he had, week 1, week 2, week 3, where it may have been like 2 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown, or 3 catches for like 75 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's not really seeing that same value either. So as long as Anthony Richardson continues, I'll say hold them back, those receivers aren't really going to have the value what we expect them to have.
I'm kind of with Christian on this one. Elliot, I disagree. I think Flacco's going to open this offense tremendously.
Was Flacco is he gonna be in, or is Richardson gonna be out for a while?
I don't know
I
how.
think
I mean,
I think the report, because I actually looked into the injury, the report said that he could have gone back into the game. They
no.
held him out so that he could continue to rest. So I would
Yeah.
expect
Right.
him
So
back next week.
I was saying like if he's gonna be back, then I wouldn't have any. But if Flacco is gonna be in long term, then I would keep value on Pittman. But if Richardson's going back, I wouldn't have value on any Colt besides
Yeah,
JT.
if Richards is in, I think really it's Taylor, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
If Flacco is in, Josh Downs look good. I would definitely take Michael Pittman. Alec Pierce, yeah, 2 targets today. He's just that boomer bust guy. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely if Flacco is in, yeah, I'm all in on the Colts offense.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Their defense doesn't look good. I mean, I don't think Justin Fields is the best quarterback, but he had a phenomenal game today versus the Colts defense. And I just think they're gonna have to throw. And if Flacco's the guy, Flacco's the guy. So I'm all in on the Colts. Zach just chimed in and said he's up 43. His opponent has Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, and the Dolphins defense. How am I? I think that depends on Gibbs, honestly. Goff, I probably see him 200, 2 touchdowns maybe. Seattle has a great secondary. Jameer Gibbs is the X factor, and Will Levis, Christian's favorite quarterback. So I don't know. Up 43, I wouldn't feel comfortable, but those other guys do have to score points, so you have a chance.
Yeah, I think always the issue with the defense is, obviously they start at 10 points if it's a regular league.
Yeah.
I feel like defenses can only hurt you. And I feel like that's always been my experience with defense. Yes, they can maybe get 15 or 20 points, but
Unless
typically,
you're
but
playing Will Levis,
yeah.
Mr. Oops.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, if he's up 43, but he has nobody left, it's gonna be hard. But it depends on. I mean, this depends on. I think it depends on what Gibbs does, like you said, Warren, because the defense. I think Miami's defense they'll get something. They may not leave with. They may not get more than 10. They may not have a
yeah,
bunch of sacks or turnovers, but they'll get something. It's really
yeah,
what is Gibbs going to do. That's
I
really
got you.
because Goff will get. He'll have at least one touchdown. But what does Gibbs do?
Yeah.
Well, Gibbs and Montgomery.
Well,
Mm.
They
uh,
both they both run hard. So I mean, if David Montgomery takes away some of those touches, well, even say some of the touchdowns from Jameer Gibbs, obviously that's going to help you or this person in this situation. So
yeah.
I feel like it depends on that running back share for tomorrow night's game.
All right. Said, what are your thoughts on the Jags? Taylor, I appreciate the likes. What are your thoughts on the Jags? Christian, you go ahead.
Brian, okay, we'll talk bright spots. Brian Thomas, bright spot.
Yeah.
Um, a player I had, I know this is last year. A player I had last year was Evan Ingram. He was a great, consistent tight end. Maybe that's what Trevor Lawrence needs to really settle into his offense. Obviously at this point, Evan Ingram has not played. He's been out the last 4 weeks. Not really sure what his injury is, but he was questionable this week, possibly going to come back, and then game time decision, he was
Yeah.
not going to play. So maybe he needs just that comfortability of having somebody he can trust to actually pass the ball to. He doesn't really have, I say, that comfort. And as he's been down, he hasn't really had the solid passing game. He's been
Mhm.
off, and we say off. He's been way off.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're looking for a player to grab or a player to hold on to, it's Brian Thomas. Evan Ingram is probably not on the roster right now because he's been injured. So maybe
Yeah.
grab him off of waivers and maybe hold him for the next couple of weeks, especially as we get into maybe some of these bye weeks. But for me, those would really be the only two players I would have. And I'll let you guys talk about the running back situations, but those are my thoughts.
I'll go. The Jags, they suck, but I will say in fantasy, a lot of times it doesn't really matter. It's just about stats. Trevor Lawrence to me is just a glorified Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's all that great. He misses throws. He's not running the way he used to. Um, as far as the bright spots, yeah, I think Brian Thomas Jr., Christian knows how I feel about LSU wide receivers. I think they translate very well. Um, I would hold on to Christian Kirk if I'm in a deep league. I had high hopes for Evan Ingram. I actually predicted him to finish top three at tight end, but of course I jinxed him. And then ETN, I think ETN at some point is going to come back being the player he was. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can run in between the tackles when they get inside the five. He can cash in. I don't know what today was about. Maybe it was just a wake up call for him. Tank Bigsby took a lot of those carries. So, I mean, my thoughts on the Jags, the only person I would really trust is probably Brian Thomas. If I'm in a two QB league, I wouldn't mind Trevor Lawrence, but definitely I would stick with Brian Thomas and I wouldn't trade ETN right now. So he said, I think Trevor Lawrence behind a good O line would be beastly, but that's not the situation we're in right now. Elliott, what's your take on that?
I don't really have much, but many things different than what you guys offered. I will. I think I'm not sure that I would even want to keep Christian Kirk. I don't know that. I think Lawrence is playing too bad, and Brian Thomas is taking too many of the snaps to where
Yeah.
Christian Kirk. Honestly, unless you're in like a deep league, like fantasy level or like 18, 20 teams, I don't think Christian Kirk is even worth a spot on the roster at this point. And I think Trevor Lawrence is only worth a spot on the roster if it's a two QB league and it's just bare bones, or if it's a dynasty league and you're thinking he may pop off and turn it around later this year or next year. But I think the Jags, and I hate it because Doug Peterson was successful in Philadelphia and he's from the Andy Reid tree, but
Yeah.
his future in that city ain't is not much longer. Bro, he's probably out of there because somebody's got to be a scapegoat. The quarterback or the coach, and the NFL's shown when
And
those two
Elliott,
are,
they just paid Trevor Lawrence, and he's not going to be the scapegoat.
yeah. Oh no. Mm-mm,
No, no, no.
mm-mm. And actually,
No.
I'm actually gonna go back on something I said earlier. I'm gonna change my mind. You asked the question, Warren, if I would, between Rashad White or Travis Etienne. And I still think they're really the same person, but I think if I think about it more, I do think Etienne has longer value right now. He is a little younger than White, and I think I don't think Tank Bigsby is as much of a threat as Bucky Irvin is a threat to Rashad White.
Yeah. Um, PR Yadil, I hope I pronounced that right, said, "Is it a time to buy low on Wilson?" I'm assuming you mean Garrett Wilson. Um,
Is it Wilson or Russell Wilson?
I don't know. It just says on Wilson. I'm assuming Garrett Wilson. My take is if you believe in him, yeah, this is probably the all-time low. You'll get him. Um,
Yeah,
now I have Garrett Wilson on my team. You guys know I'm pissed off about it. He was my first round pick. He did play. Who did he play this week? Pat Surtain. He played Christian Gonzalez for the Patriots. He played. I can't remember who else they played on their schedule, but they have. I don't know. I just feel like they don't move him around a lot and they don't feature him. Like that's the problem. That's the issue. You look at Dallas and how they treat CeeDee Lamb in the slot, on the outside. He's getting end arounds, jet sweeps, anything to get him the ball. And I feel like the Jets aren't doing that. Um, I don't know if you guys saw the comment today about Robert Saleh and Aaron Rodgers, where he said he needs to lower his cadence counts, like trying to draw the defense off sides because they had like 4 or 5 false starts today because of it. And Rodgers said that's one way to look at it, but you could hold them accountable. So I don't know. That's my take on buying low on Wilson. What do you guys think?
I mean, the key word there is low. Yeah,
Yeah,
low because don't let anybody really jerk you over Wilson. Don't let
yeah,
somebody try to name value manipulate you about it. Like his value right now, in terms of not where he was drafted, in terms of what he's actually giving you right now,
yeah,
it's like 6th round value right now, 6th, 7th round like later value. So don't let anybody jerk you over him. But yeah, try to get him because I do think it's like Austin made a point. Shout out Austin by the way. Austin couldn't be on. He's a little under the weather from some stuff he had this weekend. So we're thinking about him. But he made a point that if we, as just an average Joe fantasy analyst, notice something, you would think a coach notices it. So if we're noticing that, hey, your best offensive player is not getting the ball, and oh, by the way, you lost today, you got to figure something out. So
well,
I'm of the opinion that Garrett Wilson will have like a late season rebound, but if you're willing to wait that long, I think you should wait. If you're like 1-3 and you're like I can't wait, then yeah, maybe you do try to sell on Garrett Wilson.
But I'll say this. I know you said sell on him, and I'm not disagreeing with anything y'all have
Mm.
said. I don't know, considering he was your first round pick, you're not going to get anything, in my opinion, that is a comparable value for that. Because I mean, if you think for wide
yeah,
receiver one, I mean, I'm thinking, all right, so I drafted Puka, my wide receiver one, and obviously he's hurt. So trying to scrounge around and make something happen and trying to get, we'll say, 15 points from that wide receiver position, man, I don't really know where you're going to see that value. I mean, you can try to get maybe a top running back, even though that's going to be really tough because maybe that running back's not getting the touches or not getting the catches that you would expect. But like,
yeah.
you're not going to get a Kamara for a Garrett Wilson. So I would even say just hold on to him. And I know that wasn't the question, but I
Yeah.
would maybe even say just hold on to him because I'm not really sure if you want to sell him now at a low point.
I got another question here from Q4 Snyder. This one's actually interesting. He says, would you trade Najee Harris, T. Higgins, and Brian Robinson Jr. for Bijan Rico, I'm assuming Rico Dowdle and Keenan Allen. My initial take is no.
Can you say it one more time?
So you got Najee, T. Higgins, and Brian Robinson,
Okay.
or Bijan, Rico Dowdle, Keenan Allen.
Is this person trying to receive Bijan and Keenan or trying to get rid of those?
Trying to receive, I think,
I think he's trying to receive
Keenan and
Bijan, but I'll say this for either side, I would take the T. Higgins and Brian Robinson side. I'll tell you why. I don't believe in Keenan Allen sustaining any kind of relevancy with Chicago. Rico Dowdle, no, I don't want any Dallas running backs. Bijan is the outlier, but Bijan isn't putting up points like a first round pick. And say what you want, but I said it last week. Tyler Algier is actually not a bad player. He's a good
Hmm.
runner. I just think Brian Robinson Jr. is probably undervalued at this point. Washington's offense is amazing. Um, and he gets so many goal line touches, so much work. Um, yeah, he said he would receive Bijan. Yeah, I don't know if I would do that trade. Najee sucks, but T. Higgins had 10 targets today. I would take it. So
Yeah.
what's your thought on the Elliott?
I think I would keep what you got
Yeah.
because really I know, and I say this a lot. You always gotta you have to unpack the like 3 for 3, 3 for 2, 2 for 2 trades because really whenever you see like a 3 for 3 or a 2 for 2, there's really one player you're trying to get. So
Mhm.
really like unbreak it down. It's really Brian Thomas and Higgins for Bijan. That's really what you're trying to
Oh,
like.
Brian Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, that's really sorry, Brian Robinson. That's really what you're trying to like pass it back and forth. It's really those two. The other three guys are just like pieces to make the roster fit, but it's really those two for one.
Yeah.
I feel like Brian Robinson and T Higgins, based on what they've done so far, it's better to keep them than Bijan because, like you said, Algier's playing pretty good, and Bijan, who's playing good, but from a top three, top five fantasy overall pick perspective, he's not. That's not what he's giving us right now. So I would
No.
say keep what you have. And then
uh,
Najee, for what it's worth, he is bell cow. He will get catches. He's getting touches.
Bro.
yeah. So I'm going to say, in short, I would say not take the trade, but I do have a take. I'm actually going to devalue Brian Robinson because if you watch the game towards the end, and I know they were up big, Jeremy McNichols actually got a lot of touches. He went, and I'm just going to read what his stat line was. He had 8 touches, 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So I don't know if now he's going to be a I say more reliable RB2 and start coming in and taking some of that carry load. But if McNichols continues to grow in the offense and continues to take touches away from Brian Robinson, for me, I'm I would say that value is not really going to be there for his perspective. I would say maybe obviously I said decline the trade, but that is my take of Jermaine Nichols will continue to increase his workload and take some
I
of
don't
those
know.
carries away.
Brian Robinson had 24 touches. That's a lot.
McNichols had eight for 68, very efficient. And then I know he had a goal line touchdown from like the 2 or 3 yard line, and then he had like a long run as well.
Yeah.
So,
Um, Duddy just said, should I trade Christian McCaffrey? Um,
Ooh, just
I
just
probably
just
would.
in general, just in general.
Just in general, I'll say this. I probably would, considering what you could get for him. Um, Jordan Mason has actually looked incredible. And I think even if Christian McCaffrey comes back, they're not going to give him the same workload that they gave him. And I just think I'm not going to say it'd be 50-50. I would see it as 65-35 with Jordan Mason. So yeah, depending on what you would get, I would definitely trade Christian McCaffrey. Ryan said he needs assistance. Go ahead and drop your question, Ryan. But what do you guys think about McCaffrey?
I'm going to talk from the person who has gone through a torn Achilles. So I ruptured my Achilles back in May. Um, I know McCaffrey has an Achilles. It's not a
Tendonitis.
tear, but yeah,
I think tendonitis.
tendonitis.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
They're not going to rush him back.
course.
And so even if it is, hey, he's going to come back week 10. Well, at that point, you're halfway through your fantasy season. I know this is week 4, so you've got 6 more weeks until he gets back. I don't know if they have a bye week before or after that. So
Yeah.
that's another week that you're not going to be able to use him. Maybe just try to trade him now. Maybe a comparable trade is CMC for Puka Nakua if that's out there. They're
Yeah.
both out on injured reserve, so essentially it's a piece for a piece. But I mean, Warren, you said it. He's not going to have that. Let's give him 15 touches and then we'll give him like seven
Mm-mm.
targets a game, and
Yeah.
that usage won't be there.
Appreciate the question, Snyder. Just going down the list. Josh says, should I trade Nico Collins for Justin Jefferson?
I would keep Nico Collins.
Ooh,
I've
that's
I've
tough.
got I've got Nico Collins right now. And
That's
again,
tough.
JJ's been he's JJ. You can't he's so matchup proof. But when I
Oh,
look at what okay, I have Nico Collins, so I can speak as like Nico Collins.
yeah.
My team right now, it's not even a question. He's the best player on the team. He's the guy that like if I need some, Nico Collins. I mean, whether
That's
Tank Dell's
tough,
out, Tank
man.
Dell's in, even with Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, he's been getting his. He has not lost nothing. And he's got, even though Sam Darnold is having a resurgence, he's having a phenomenal year. And I feel like, unless there's something, honestly, the only way I would say yes is unless you're just a Vikings fan and you want him. Otherwise, just keep Nico. That's me.
That's tough. Nico leads the league in receiving yards coming in today, and then today I think he had 130, something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think
Um,
121 or something like that.
that's tough, bro. That's tough. I would probably, oh man, I'd probably do it. Like that's Justin Jefferson. Oh man, I'd probably do it. I'd probably trade him. Elliott says no. Christian, you the tiebreaker. What you think? BP
No,
said
I
no.
would I would say trade it. I mean, MVP quarterback Sam Darnold over there. I would
Yeah, I'd
I would
probably say
trade
I
for
would
him.
take that. But I mean, Elliott's been right before. You said you might want to keep Nico. Alex said, "What's wrong with Brees Hall?" So we touched on this earlier. I think it's just the Jets as a whole. They have no chemistry. The coach and the quarterback are arguing. Today was just a bad game. I think Brees will get you catches and he'll make up for the lack of like 100-yard games. But I just think it's the offense is not clicking right now at Rodgers. That's my take on Brees. Um, Somebody else says, "Oh, Christian, you take this one." He said, "Jaden Daniels or Patrick Mahomes."
Definitely Jaden Daniels. So if you're looking for somebody that obviously Lamar Jackson's not on your team because you're asking this question, take Jaden Daniels. He is the next best thing that you can have to Lamar Jackson at this point.
Or maybe better.
Obviously, yeah, or maybe even better.
Yeah.
He's got the same system that Kyler had. He's not going to fall off once Call of Duty comes out, so you don't have to worry about that. But if we keep saying that same progression of that Kyler had with the offensive coordinator, I would definitely say keep Jaden Daniels. Mahomes, he's lost Hollywood Brown, he's coming back, I guess,
Yeah.
in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Rasheed Rice, it's not confirmed,
He's
but we
probably out
expect
for
that
the
he's
Yeah,
torn his
I
ACL,
think this
probably out
year.
for the
yeah.
year. Yeah. And so as they're trying to find more weapons, now I'll even add Kelsey, he's not what he was last year or the year before. I don't really have a lot of faith in Patrick Mahomes. Not saying he's not going to win. I'm just talking about from a fantasy perspective. He's not
Fantasy
going to
talk.
be
Yeah.
running around trying to get you as many rushing yards as he can. He's going to be, hey, let me hand the ball off to Kareem Hunt. Let me hand the ball off to I can't remember the dude that has the alligator. He's going to
Oh,
be trying
Carson Steele.
Carson
Carson.
Steele.
Yeah.
He's going to be
Yeah.
trying to find who he can hand that ball off to, or
Yeah.
who he can get the quick pass out to. That is not what Jane Daniels is doing to his benefit,
Yeah.
but he's been as efficient as you can expect from a rookie quarterback. So I know the season's only going to get tougher. They're only going to be able to scheme against him for Jane Daniels, but
Yeah.
I would still say keep him. If you want to trade him for maybe a comparable piece like a CJ Stroud, but I would not even say that, Patrick Mahomes at this point is at that same value as Jaden Daniels.
Elliot, I'm gonna let you take the next question from BP. He says, should I trade Devon Achan, Devontae Smith, and Sam Laporta for Justin Jefferson, Joe Mixon, and George Kittle?
So Laporta, Devonta Smith, who was that third person in that first
Achan
one? H-N.
for Jefferson, Mixon, and Kittle. I would say yeah,
I would
just
say yes
because Jefferson and
because
Mixon. Yeah.
Jefferson, even though I said no the previous time, but Jefferson is a stud. A chain with Tua out and with Huntley as a starter, we don't know what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, as good as Smith is, he's I don't know how I think he does somewhat have a ceiling because of AJ Brown's impact and then the rushing of Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I do think Kittle, especially with Ayuk and Purdy still not having good chemistry and Debo being in and out, I think Kittle today balled out a great catch. I
Yeah.
think Kittle and Jefferson, in terms of like total cumulative value, is better. So if that person that you offer it will take it, I would say offer
Yeah. I agree.
it.
Appreciate
I agree.
the roses. Appreciate the question, BP. Uh, Cam, I'll take this one. He says, should I trade Godwin for Bijan? I need running backs. That one I would probably take. Um, I think that Bijan can give you good value at a running back position. Chris Godwin's good, but they still have Mike Evans. Um,
And Palmer's emerging.
yeah.
Bucky's emerging.
And if you do need a running back, yeah, I would definitely make that trade. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
I agree as well.
I got you. BP said, yeah, that's good value. All right. So Q4 Snyder said, I see you got a Dolphins hat on. How do you feel about Tyreek's fantasy value right now? Woo!
Ooh, good
So
question.
I, I'll go, Christian. You go real quick. I have Tyreek on my fantasy team in my dynasty league. I'm not confident, but I will say I do think he'll be better. It can't get worse, like my whole take. And we don't know how Tyler Huntley's going to be. Maybe he has an arm. Maybe he can go deep. But Tyreek's value right now is kind of unknown. It just depends on if people think, you know, Tua will come back or if Tyler Huntley will be able to get him the ball. Christian, what do you think?
I would say hold on to him. And so I think Warren, I think you said this last week. You said if you have a Dolphins player, fade them all. Tyreek's not going to have the same value. If you can get anything for them,
Mhm.
try to trade them because essentially this post Tua era, at
Yeah.
least for right now, we don't really know what that looks like. Now, Scoop Huntley is a Pro Bowl quarterback,
Yeah.
technically.
Mm-hmm. That's
So I
true.
mean, he does have some value, but I would still say hold on to Tyreek Hill. He still has McDaniels, who offensive guru. He knows how to scheme him open. He may not be getting the same touches he had with Tua, like the deep bombs, but I would still trust him off of a what's a wide receiver screen, something underneath. He's still probably going to get those, I guess yards after catch that he would have from any
Yeah.
quarterback. So it won't be the same value, but he's still going to get some points.
Yep. Somebody said, Jacob said the Panthers are looking solid. Yep, they are. Ryan asked, he doesn't need Rashad White. No one does. Um, he want to get rid of him and Alan Lazard. Do you think he could get him for George Pickens? I would make that trade if the other guy is willing to do it or a
Yeah.
girl is willing to do it. Um, Somebody says I'm up 21 and I play Tyreek Hill tomorrow. Am I good?
Assuming that it's just Tyreek Hill only and you're up
Yeah,
21 with they played the Titans, right?
yeah.
So he'll have
Probably
Legarius
don't have
Sneed,
Snead. Yeah,
Legarius Sneed, and then probably another safety on top. I would say I think he would be safe because
I think you're safe.
I think Huntley's gonna be more geared to check down the A chain or just run it.
No,
I don't think he's gonna be trying to get Tyreek Hill 10 catches.
All right,
Christian.
Warren, I'm ready to go viral. Tyreek Hill will not score more. He will not score more than 10 points tomorrow.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
we got that
There
on
we go.
record. I think he will score more than 10 points. We'll put that bet on the board.
PPR
All right.
style, or it doesn't matter.
PPR. Um, D Shack Brokerage. Christian, you can take this one. They said that they got offered Kenneth Walker to lose Zach Moss. He has Zach Moss. He said he got Moss for Eckler last week. He's in a 12-man full PPR.
Okay. So he's going to get Kenneth Walker or he's going to get Zach Moss.
Get Kenneth Walker for Zach Moss.
I would take that trade. Um, Zach Moss and Chase Brown, right now, they are splitting carries in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And so while they're both getting, I mean, I looked at their stat line today. Chase Brown, I think, had a better stat line of like 15 or 16 points. Zach
Yeah.
Moss had, I think, around 12 or 14, somewhere there.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like long term. The only issue with Kenneth Walker is can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
And so it's not a question of, oh man, is he productive? It's how is his body going to hold up the rest of the season?
Yeah.
So I would just take the bet that you're going to get the more productive player. if anything, Kenneth Walker's going to help you win, we'll say 3 or 4 weeks at least.
Yeah,
But if you're just trying to get wins, especially ahead of the bye weeks, go ahead and take that trade, get the points while you can, and figure it out long term.
I agree. I would take that trade. User dad stated, "Come on, man. I'm up 110 points against Tyreek and DK. Do I win?" Yeah, I think you got that one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
It makes me
yeah,
question his opponent, really.
yeah. Ryan said, Rashad White, Lazard for Pickens. We talked about that. Average J said Huntley will 100% exceed Tua. Confidence and vision are better. I hope so. The Dolphins
Hey,
need it.
speak
Um,
of truth.
the battle cruiser said, not a question, but I hate Mahomes. Oh man, hate's a strong word. Um, I'm down 11 points, which their only player is St. Brown. If it's PPR, I would assume they would win. You guys agree?
I would too.
Down, down how many points?
11.
You said 20. Okay, yeah. Because
I
all you
think
gotta
they'll
do is get
win.
like 6 catches and
Yeah.
hopefully like 60 yards, which he can do that.
Seattle secondary is good, but I think I'm on to be all right. BP said, should I sell J.K. Dobbins or keep him on my bench? I'd keep him. What do you guys think?
It just I'd have to know more about what the person needed, but just a question blank, I would say keep him. He's definitely like a workhorse for that offense.
Yeah.
I know he asked, should he keep J.K. Dobbins on his team or really on his bench? Man,
Yeah.
if J.K. Dobbins is on your bench,
Man, yeah, who you
so
got?
Who you have
yeah,
in?
who do you have? So
Yeah.
if you can trade
Can you
J.K.
trade? Can you
Dobbins,
trade me somebody? Can we do a
yeah,
trade?
can you package him and try to get maybe a receiver or maybe like somewhere where you're lacking?
Yeah.
I may consider that.
Crescent said DeAndre Swift and Mike Evans for Kamara. Yes.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh, I would say no.
I would
Um,
take Kamara out of that trade.
so you're giving up
Wait,
Swift.
You're giving
Go
up
ahead, Elliott.
Swift and Evans for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I like Mike Evans, so I think for me, I'm saying no solely because of Mike Evans.
What
I would
about you,
want
He
Elliot?
is
Kamara. I'd want
he's the
Kamara.
receiver you want to have. So
Yeah. I mean, take either one of ours advice, but I would take Kamara. Christian said he
Mm-hmm.
takes Swift and Evans. Ellie said he take Kamara.
I take Kamara. But again, that's just like I don't know what your team looks like.
Yeah,
Just the names on the screen. Give me Kamara.
I got you. I got you. Let me see. So, where is he? Oh, he said Kamara and Taylor are my starters. Oh, so I guess he's losing Kamara. Um,
Oh, okay.
BP
okay.
said, how often do you guys go live? You guys got good ball knowledge. Every Sunday night, probably after the Sunday night game, and we'll probably pick it up during the week at some point. Talk about waiver wires.
Mhm.
Scott said, is Rasheed Rice done? Have they confirmed it? Christian, do you know if they've confirmed the ACL?
Uh, they asked Andy Reid in the post game press conference. He said it doesn't look good. They think it's an ACL, but until they have an MRI tomorrow, they cannot confirm it. But
Yeah, I
it
would say
is
more than likely.
expected to be an ACL.
Yeah. Gilbert said I'm down 11. I got St. Brown. Yeah, we answered that one. Yeah, you'll probably win. Should I trade Diggs for Debo? Uh, Debo Samuel and Josh. Hold on. This question is kind of weird. It says trade Diggs for Debo or Diggs plus Josh Jacobs for man, you don't have to reword that. I can't really read it. Um,
If it's a straight up digs for Debo,
I
I
take
think I would.
I take
Okay.
Debo.
Yeah.
I think he was trying
Um,
to give you like a this or a that, and I think there may be a comma off or something like a comma missing.
I got you. I got you. Max said, "Are we panicking about Brees?" We've talked about Brees Hall. I'm not really panicking. Elliot, I think one of y'all said something about Braylon Allen. Are you guys
Yeah,
panicking on Brees?
I'm not panicking, but I would keep my eyes open on for Braylon Allen or just somebody else.
I got you.
I'd
So Warren,
send
let
feelers
me
out.
ask you a question with that. So
Okay.
I know we talked about Brees Hall already, but do you think the Jets can change their offensive identity to run through Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson? I know you talked about earlier that they're not really featuring Garrett Wilson.
Mhm.
So do you think that, I mean, this is week 4. starting next week that they can change their identity and really feature those two guys and have Aaron Rodgers really give them the ball.
It depends on Rodgers, to be honest. I think I forgot the offensive coordinator's name.
Nathaniel Hackett.
Nathaniel
Nathaniel
Hackett.
Hackett. I think he's got so much. I don't know. He gives Rodgers too much power, and I think
Mhm.
if Rodgers goes into it and he's like, "Hey, let's get Garrett Wilson the ball here," Rodgers is going to go to the line and check into something that he wants. And I don't know. I think that they can scheme their offense around Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson, which they should do. But I mean, I don't know. It just depends on Rodgers. It was weird today, like watching them play because it seemed off, and I didn't think Denver's defense was all that good. But I mean, I don't know. I'm still not panicking on Brees. I'm panicking more on Garrett Wilson, but
I think the
not
thing about
Brees.
that game that we may not be missing, I think, and I didn't get a chance to watch the full game, but and actually it's NFL highlights are showing it right now on my TV, so small world. It did rain really heavily,
Yeah,
and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how good you are as a receiver or running back. If you're playing in heavy rain, you're gonna struggle. So I do think that does play a factor. And Warren, you mentioned it more than likely. Pastor Tan was on Wilson, although Pastor Tan actually struggled this year. He hasn't been like elite this year, but
yeah.
he's still a cornerback that's top five. So I think you got to put that in perspective too.
Oh, Cohen's Clubhouse said, "Should I sell Brees for JT and Monty?" I'm assuming that's Jonathan Taylor. I would.
If they
David
take it,
Montgomery.
yeah.
Taylor and Montgomery, yeah, I
If they
would.
take it, oh, absolutely.
Max says, "Are you starting Baker Thursday night football versus Atlanta or Stroud versus Buffalo next week?"
Stroud for me.
I'd probably,
Thursday games are always just kind of like you don't
yeah, if
know.
it wasn't Thursday, but
Yeah.
I might take Baker. That's tough. I might take Baker.
So I'm gonna say Stroud only because it's in division.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, your division opponents always scheme
Always
you
play you
better than
tough.
anybody else.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I know Raheem Morris. I know he's a new first year head coach for the Falcons. He's not new first year head coach, but
Yeah.
I think for him, he knows how to scheme Baker. A lot of the players have been there before, and so I would think they're going to have a really good game plan for Baker and Mike Evans. And honestly, it may come down to the run game.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I'm going to say go CJ Stroud. If Josh Allen's back at home, he's going to be passing. He's going to have a lot of support from the fan base, which means also Stroud is going to be passing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Uh,
This Buffalo defense is not. They're not bad, but they're not what they were in the
yeah.
past 2 years.
yeah, they've had a lot of injuries as well.
Mhm.
Gianchi, I think that's how you say it, said they are trading Jamar Chase and James Conner for CD and Jordan Mason.
Great trade.
That's a decent trade.
It's
Yeah.
pretty even. It's very even.
I like it. Somebody said, should I trade, or I don't know which side they're getting, but they said Rashad White and Myers, which I'm assuming Jacoby Myers, for Jaden Reed. Yes.
Yeah.
Take Jaden Reed.
Yes.
Elliot, do you want to talk about it? Because I know you said something earlier in our I guess our group text about Jaden Reed.
Yeah, Jaden Reed, I have to I mean, I wasn't necessarily like predicting in the offseason this guy would be bad. I just didn't consider him. Like I literally thought this receiver core at Green Bay as a compliment would be so well balanced that that one guy just wouldn't stand out. That Watson, Reed, and Dobbs, and Kraft would just be so good for Jordan Love that you couldn't pinpoint one. But Jaden Reed has really separated himself as
Yep.
the guy in this offense. And if you've got him, keep him. And if anybody wants to come from on your team, do not let them get it for anything less than like first round value.
Yeah.
Or if you're a dynasty league, for sure do not let him go.
Yeah.